Hi there, Dave Markham here. I wanted to share with you some further ideas about Sweden Supervisor candidate Patricia Connors' letter to the Suburban News on October 30th. She says she knows what I think. And I say, wow, good for her, because I don't believe half the things I think. I think all kinds of crap. I think it all day long. I got ideas coming in one ear and going out the other, and I change my mind all the time. When new information comes in or circumstances change, I'm the first person to change his mind. I find I'm a little more effective that way, because I know I don't know everything. And half the stuff I think I know, I really don't know. Socrates said it, unexamined life is not worth living. And I try to live examined lives. So when new information comes up or circumstances change or a new idea comes along, I'm the first person to question my thoughts. And I'm thinking, well, this is what I thought before, but now I think something else. So I change my mind, and I do it regularly. And I'm a humble enough person that I've come to learn that I don't believe half the stuff I think. So when Mrs. Connors says she knows what I think, more power to her. I mean, she's doing a better job of keeping track of my thoughts than I am. So I wish her the best. If I won and she didn't win, she'd have a little more time on her hands. Maybe she could take over my life. I could use a good coach, a personal assistant. I enjoy the feedback. So I welcome Mrs. Connors and anybody else's feedback or criticisms, and if they think I know what I think, I'd like to know what they think I think. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't believe half the stuff I think. So if she knows what I think, I don't know. I'd be willing to take a look at that and question myself and say, Dave, do you really think this? This is what Mrs. Connors thinks you think. Do you really think it? So anyway, I'm doing a series of videos here on what she thinks I think to clarify the situation and question myself, and also to let you know whether I agree with her that I think that. So the second thing here that she said to me, or said in her letter, was if a tremendous surplus builds up, as it did happen, it should. She's talking about the ambulance service here now. Let me read you the whole paragraph, not just the sentence. It said, I believe that all ambulance fees charged by the village of Brockport should be spent on ambulance service. If a tremendous service builds up, as did happen, it should be used to reduce property taxes for fire protection, or the fees charged to ambulance users should be lowered. My opponent thinks it's okay to use ambulance fees for any expense under the sun. Well, Mrs. Connors, I don't think understands how the ambulance service worked in the village of Brockport. It cost the town of Sweden no money, and it cost the town of Clarkson no money, and it actually cost village residents no money. All the revenue that supported the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps was raised by insurance revenue from the services that they provided. And the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps was run in an extremely effective, efficient way. And like any good business with good management, it did generate a surplus, a profit. And the village of Brockport decided to use some of that profit to cover some expenses from its general fund, so it didn't have to raise property taxes on village residents. I think that's a very good thing. And I frankly don't know why Mrs. Connors would have an issue with that. I just think it's very good management. Now, if she was trustee in the village of Brockport, she had a different point of view of how that surplus could be used. I guess she would have an opportunity to voice, but she is working for the town of Sweden, not the village of Brockport. So, she ought to be worrying about the issues in the town of Sweden, not be trying to run the village of Brockport. Village of Brockport has 5 people that were elected to run that. So if the village board decides that they want to use some of the profit from the Brockport ambulance to cover some other expenses to lower the property taxes on village residents, I think that's a perfectly okay thing to do. Mrs. Connors seems to forget that 8,000 of her constituents in the town of Sweden happen to live in the village of Brockport. So 2/3 of her constituents benefited by the village of Brockport's decision to use some of the Brockport volunteer ambulance profit to lowering Brockport residents' property tax. Now, what did Mrs. Connors do? She voted to give the contract to Monroe Ambulance, which is a profit-making company in Rochester. And if Monroe Ambulance operates their ambulance as effectively and efficiently as Brockport did, they're running a profit too, or a surplus. And what do you suppose Monroe Ambulance is doing with its surplus? Are they giving it back to town of Sweden residents? No. Are they giving it back to the village of Brockport residents so that they can decrease the property tax on village residents? No. So Mrs. Connors, in her vote to change the contract, did the village of Brockport residents a real disservice. So my opponent thinks it's okay to use ambulance fees for any expense under the sun. No. But I do think it's okay if the ambulance is running a profit, that the village board then has the authority to invest in equipment or to further develop the ambulance corps or to use the profit for some other purpose for the village of Brockport. The Office of State Controller ruled that it was entirely proper. Now, I don't know if Mrs. Connors wants to go up against the state controller or she wants to argue with the board, the village trustees. You know, and that's her prerogative. But I think her taking a slam at me, saying that I want Brockport Volunteer Ambulance revenue to be used just willy-nilly for any use under the sunshine, that's not what I think. And she never asked me about it. I'd be happy to discuss it with her. You know, if I don't win as supervisor, I will go up and I'll discuss this with her. And if I do win, I don't know. I don't know whether she'll still participate in town government or not. I hope she does. You know, she's been a town councilman for 12 years, and I value her thoughts and opinions as long as she's willing to be open-minded about it, not just spout, political rhetoric that makes no sense. So this idea that Sweden and Clarkson that Brockport had a $640,000 surplus from the ambulance fund is, and that somehow that money should have been used for other purposes to reinvest in the ambulance and fire. If they really want that, why not put that in their contract? That could be a bargaining point for their contract if they want to do that. And then we could have an honest discussion about it instead of slinging mud. So at any rate, Mrs. Connors says that's what I think. That's not what I think. And I don't know. Maybe she could change my mind, because I'm very open to changing my mind if she has a good argument, but I haven't seen it yet. All I see is the blame game, and I'm not interested in blame game. Excuse me. I'm interested in producing high-quality services for the residents of our village and town that are effective, cost-efficient, and very customer-satisfying. And so that's my position. I think it's a crying shame that she sold the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps down the river. There was 40 devoted volunteers and a few paid people. I was at the meeting where the Sweden Town Council, of which she was a member, were begged, literally begged by Pam Ketchum and others to not make the change in contract. In fact, there was 30 people who spoke out at that hearing on December 28th, including me. There was nobody that spoke for the change in the contract from Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps to Monroe. Not one person spoke in favor of their proposal. But there were 30 people who spoke against it. And the TV cameras were on, and, the town council was put in a bad spot because they were doing something that the village and town residents didn't want to have them do. And so they caved. And then later on Friday, 3 days later, Mrs. Connors, as the spokesperson, said she got very emotional and made a bad decision. Under the heat of the television lights, I guess. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It was not good for the Brockport Volunteer Ambulance Corps. It was not good for the citizens of the town of Sweden and the village of Brockport. I was dead set up against it at the time, along with 29 other people who publicly spoke. And, it's a crying shame. They destroyed a very effective, efficient, valuable community organization. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I've decided to run, is I think the town council has made two things. I think they have made some very bad decisions, which have been very destructive for our community. And number two, the way they have gone about it, behind closed doors, doing sneaky meetings, after promising to study the issue for 3 months or 2 months. On Tuesday, December 28th, on the morning of New Year's Eve at 9 o'clock, December 31st, 2010, they called a special meeting on the spur of the moment, and they all voted to rescind the previous motion to table their decision for 2 months, and they decided to change the contracts. Now, I was told they did that under pressure from Clarkson. I don't know why they did it, but they betrayed all their constituents. And now I'm running to give you a choice. I don't operate that way. I'm open and honest with people. You want to know what I think? Call me, 637-0040. Email me, davidgmarkham@gmail.com. If you don't have the courage to do that, you can leave an anonymous comment, which a lot of people are doing on the articles on this blog. That's perfectly okay. And yet, the comments you see, I would take with a grain of salt unless the person uses their name. There's an awful lot of people that are leaving derogatory comments anonymously. Saying that I'm a hypocrite and I'm a jackass and I don't present myself well. And they were going to vote for me, but they can't vote for me now because they don't like the truth I'm telling. Well, hey, I don't know what to say. I don't know who you are. I don't know how to respond because you're still under the rock. So if you want to come out from under the rock and have an adult conversation, I'd be happy to do it. All right, I got a couple of other videos coming up. This is a long one. I'm sorry to keep you so long. I had a lot to say, and I appreciate your sticking with me if you had to the end here. And tomorrow there'll be another one. All right? Peace.